IMAP is a messaging protocol to be able to receive emails to certain devices. There are a few different ones like POP3 for example, but IMAP is the most frequently used today. So what does that mean for you and for Activix? Well, normally you at your dealership are using your own dealership email. Let's say for example, sunny@expdealership.com. If that's the case, when using Activix, even though you log in with your email, you're not actually using your email to log in. It's just like a username, for example. So when sending emails through Activix, we're impersonating you by using an Activix domain ending email. It's usually activixauto.ca, and that's sometimes an issue when you're emailing customers through your own email box and emailing customers through Activix simultaneously. That's something that the customer might notice because they're getting two emails from two different addresses. So how does IMAP integration fix this problem? Well, by using Activix's IMAP integration, we simply actually use your email address into Activix. So you'll be able to send and receive emails directly within Activix, directly within your email box. So if you reply to a customer from your Outlook, for example, that communication will be automatically integrated into Activix. Same thing for the opposite. If you use Activix to email the customer, it would also end up in your email box. Now, IMAP integrations imply a few challenges. Number one, no two email domain providers are the same. For example, Google has specifications that need to be set up by an IT administrator before being able to integrate with Activix. To make it easier for you guys, I'll list these setup steps here in this training course. Depending on your email provider, it can be as simple as punching in your email and password, but there can also be certain situations where you might have to provide your email server settings. If you have a custom email domain, that is usually the case. Now, unfortunately, here at Activix, I can't guess what your email provider settings are, what your domain is, and what the server settings are. So usually an IT or administrator does have access to this information, which would usually make it a lot easier to set up on your end. So whoever gave you originally your email password and settings to say, for example, put it in your phone's email app, that'll usually be the same settings that we use to set up the IMAP integration. So with that being said, here's a little recap. Activix's IMAP integration allows you to integrate with your dealership email or any email really to send and receive emails from your email directly into Activix, as well as integrate all past previous emails in the communication history for that customer. Each email server is unique, and the settings and setup may be slightly different depending on your server, depending on your provider. Finally, as the name implies, this is an IMAP integration, not a POP3 integration. So if your email provider only provides a POP3 email server address, you won't be able to use the integration into Activix. The IMAP integration only works for SSL secure connections. You won't be able to use the integration if you're not connected securely with SSL. This is to protect you and your data. So now that that's all said and done, let's go ahead and get IMAP integrated in our own account. We'll go into our initials or profile picture at the top right, and we'll hit My Profile. Then in Edit a User, we'll go into Preferences and just simply scroll all the way to the bottom. Then we'll click on Activate the Email Client, and here we'll type in our email address. The IMAP service will sometimes be able to guess what the email provider is and will save you a few steps. In this case, it detected that this is a Gmail because my work email is provided by Gmail. So provided that the preliminary steps were done by my IT team, which obviously they were at Activix, I would simply have to sign in over here and I'd be automatically connected. But let's say I have a different provider. I would do select a different provider, and then here I would choose the provider. The very, very vast majority fall into one of these first four options. If I have an Exchange account, I'll go and put my email, my password, and then in advanced settings, I'll go ahead and put in my Exchange username and Exchange server, and these are once again usually provided by my IT services at my dealership. And I'll hit login. That's really all there is to it. Provided that you have the server information, you'll be connected and ready to go. One last point, however, is that sometimes these email providers will automatically expire the security token for this connection. So this can be done on a set schedule, say every month or so you'll have to reconnect, or it can be if you haven't used the service in such and such amount of time. So once in a while, make sure that you're still activated. If you're not, this button would actually say reactivate the email client instead. Once you're set up and ready to go, if you open up a customer where you've had email conversations with, you'll notice the entire email conversation chain has been integrated. One last thing to look out for when using IMAP is if you're, let's say, a manager, for example, who connected their IMAP and you have one of your employees as a customer in the CRM, your entire communication history with their email will appear in the CRM. So make sure that you're careful. And typically speaking, especially if you're a manager who doesn't engage in conversation in the CRM, for managers, I don't recommend using IMAP for that case. Note that if you're working from multiple accounts, it's important to redo this step for each child account. Even if you're using the same email for, say, the auto group, you would have to repeat these steps in all of your children's accounts.